and this is Branded. We'll just be chatting. Hello, everybody. My name is Julia Okujax, and welcome to yet another episode of Branded. Well, last week we had a very interesting conversation about what a brand is and what it is not. I think we looked more about at what it is not. And today I've intentionally come to talk to you about why do you have to have a brand in the first place? And to put it in context, let me go back to one of my favorite, most favorite recent examples, and that is of the car hire people at the arrivals lounge in the airport. And why does that come back to mind? Because recently I passed through the airport again. I didn't even look at them this time. I had made a mental note that I'll try and look at where the names are, but the names are just below eye level. So, and nobody presented themselves to me by way of smiling or waving. So nobody came to mind. Now, why do you have to have a brand in the first place? You could start something and keep doing it, a service, a product, do everything, and you don't have to bother about branding. But branding is really so that you can stand out and stand out in a good way. If you recall, last week we said you can stand out in a bad way. You could provide bad customer service, you could be casual, indifferent, and that will still be a brand. It just won't be a good brand, but it's still a brand. Just as people can be casual and indifferent or kind of disrespectful in the way they address people in their everyday lives, and that will be a brand. That will be their personal brand, definitely. Or they can be braggadocious, and that's their personal brand. Yeah. So, why have a brand? Because you want to stand out. Why stand out? Because you want people to notice you and notice you for profit. Now, the profit could be anything. It could be so you can have maybe get grants or maybe get customers or have more people to patronize it. But there has to be a profit motive. You can't just say, I want to brand myself and for no reason at all. Now, I want to take you back to years ago, centuries ago. My daughter was saying the previous millennium, which it was, when I did my National Youth Service in what was then Kwara State, but it's now Kogi State. And it's a story I've told several times, but it's probably be new to you, so I will share it now. I went into the market, which was called Oja Oba. I hope I pronounce it well. My Yoruba friends, please correct me. It was a big market in Ilorin at the time. And I went in there, first time away from home for such a protracted period, and I had to go buy my groceries, my tomatoes, I like fresh things, really. So I wasn't going to meddle with the tin stuff. So I had to go buy my tomatoes, my grains, my meat, my everything. So I walked into the Ojaba, and I was totally lost. I didn't understand the language. I didn't understand anything. There's this Calabar girl just out of her teenage years, and she's in a lorry, and she's trying to figure out what to do. And I saw this sea, just as I usually see this sea of car hire service providers who are just standing there looking at me or sitting there looking at me. I saw this sea of women and men who were just selling different produce. But there was this elderly lady who smiled at me. And I said, okay, friendly face, calm me down. So I went to her and I said, hello. And she looked at me like, Yobo, I don't understand. I said, okay, tomato. But she never lost her smile. I said, tomato. Peppers. And then she asked me, you want tatashi? She asked me in Yoruba, or her language. She mentioned something tatashi. I had never known of tatashi at that time. So I said, I don't know. And onions, that's where I learned that onions is called albasa in some languages. I never knew that before. So she was just pointing and telling me what each thing was. And when we had finally gathered enough of what I wanted, she now proceeded to want to grind, put it through the grinder because I didn't have a blender at that time. Remember I was doing youth service. I didn't have a blender. So She half wanted to put it through the grinding machine, all of them together. And I looked at the grinding machine, it was really grimy. Not really filthy, but grimy. So I told her, no, no. I knew the word for water in Yoruba is omi. So I said, omi, omi, like that. Wash. And she said, I'll pay. I said, yes, I'll pay. So she flushed this entire machine for me until I was happy and made sure she ground everything. And then by that time, her daughter came, and her daughter could speak some English, so we could communicate. And her daughter, she just told me, Joko, sit down. And her daughter went, help me get the meat, the beef, help me get the greens. And I paid for everything. And she could tell that I was new in town, stranger in town. And why did she stick out? Why am I talking about her? Because she's stuck in my mind. The next time I came, I just went straight there. I said, where's Mama? And Mama would just go, my daughter, sit down. She just starts washing the machine automatically, you know. So, what am I saying? This woman actually branded herself in a sea of people who offer the same service. She branded herself. She went beyond the call of duty. What was the first thing she did? She smiled. She didn't know who I was. I don't think she cared. I'm sure if you went there to buy 500,000 worth of produce or 5 naira worth of produce, it was who she was. She smiled. She was helpful. She pointed at things. She told me the names. So when I came the next time, it was easier, you know. Then she went beyond the call of duty, even far beyond the call of duty, to help me because she saw I was just not comfortable in the market environment because I didn't know the language really, and I didn't really like to go to the market. But don't tell anyone, you know. And she got someone to help me, her daughter, to help me get those things, and she never charged me extra. So anytime I knew anybody going to that market, I'll just say, ask for Mama. She's usually like this. I knew her name, I've forgotten it now. But I've never forgotten how she made me feel. And that's the thing about brands. People may forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. How is your brand making people feel? How do you stick out in people's minds when they finish with you? And please understand this: everybody can have a blooper, everybody can have a bad day. But how do you get back from a bad day? She and I could have had maybe an opportunity lost, but she was very clear that she was not going to lose this opportunity. You know, she held on to it. She made the sale, she reinforced the sale, and she even extended it. So she even created benefits for other people. She wasn't selfish. So that was the brand. That is possibly what I look out for when I look at brands. People who don't just look at everything, okay, everything is cash on demand, cash, 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 cash. We must cash out on everything. Well, that is me. There are other kinds of brands. But remember this: you're branding because you want to differentiate. And branding cuts across everything you do. My very first broadcast, I talked about the pain points and the pleasure points. I was in some kind of pain because I was not familiar. I was in an unfamiliar environment, but I needed to have a result. This woman was in some kind of pain because she didn't understand me, but she found a way to communicate. So good brands must cross that barrier and find a way to give pleasure to their clients. I hope this has been of help to you because remembering it now, I just thinking like, why don't I remember Mama's name? But she actually helped to create good memories of Ilori for me, and that's the power of just one brand, you know. Next week, we'll start delving into specificities of branding, and we'll start with the naming ceremony. It's going to be very interesting. You know, the names we give our businesses, very, very indicative of the kind of brands we want to build. I hope you found this useful, and I hope you'll join us next week. And send us your questions, and we'll handle it. Until then, take care and keep shining like the star you're made to be.